Hello and welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Space Shows Show. I'm your host, Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Frost, joined by noted Space Show fan and Admiral Kerry Jackson.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going, Kerry?
I'm good. We're going to talk Star Trek the Animated Series today.
Yes.
5 episodes.
Some gems of episodes.
Which I pounded through yesterday because Sue went to visit one of her friends up in the hills. So I had a whole couple of hours to fill, and I went, I better do my homework for Space Show. And there it is. And so I watched them.
Listen, I literally only just finished the last episode like 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
But I'm so glad because it's so fresh in my mind. But today we're going to be talking about these animated series episodes: The Survivor, The Infinite Vulcan, The Magicks of Megas-tu, Once Upon a Planet, and Mudd's Passion, the return of our dear friend.
Your old friend, your favorite
Harry
character.
Mudd.
You love Harry Mudd.
But first, before we get there, let's talk about The Survivor. Patrolling near the Romulan neutral zone, the USS Enterprise finds a ship carrying Carter Winston, a Federation citizen and philanthropist who has been missing for 5 years. This is another one of those classic shapeshifter episodes.
Yeah, I found it retreaded a lot of original series because they did that a lot in the original series. Let's be quite upfront about that.
Oh yeah. The Uhura doesn't make an appearance in this episode. However, Nichelle Nichols voices Anne, who is small universe, the fiance of this man, Carter Winston, that they find out near the Romulan neutral zone. And
what a coincidence.
What a coincidence.
She's serving on the ship. How about that? Yeah.
It's Small Lake City, but on the Enterprise.
Exactly.
This shapeshifter episode missed one of my favorite tropes of the which one do I shoot, because you never see two of the same character in the same
Okay, that's true.
instance.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because all he does is the creature gives you, I don't know, like a Vulcan nerve pinch, essentially, makes you take a nap. Both Kirk and McCoy wake up from their nap going, whoa, I must have been tired. Nothing unusual about this at all.
And they don't strike me as people who just take naps, Yeah.
Like, if I take a nap, it is expected and definitely hours long, but
it's planned as well, right?
Planned. Yeah. When I tell you, I spend so much of my day planning naps.
And we're not starship captains or Starfleet personnel.
No, we have such lesser problems. But like you said, this is, just kind of retreaded territory. Nothing really new going on here. This episode features a rare guest voice with no previous Star Trek connections. Ted Knight voiced Carter Winston. He goes uncredited here, even though he was famously playing Ted Baxter on the Mary Tyler Moore Show at the time.
And later, the legendary Judge Smales in Caddyshack. And
a hamburger? No, a cheeseburger. I want a hot dog. I want a milkshake. I want potato chips. You'll get nothing, and like it.
Which is exactly what Carter Winston sounds like. This is also the only episode we did learn some crucial information about the Star Trekiverse in this episode, that Dr. McCoy has a daughter named Joanna.
And she never comes up again.
Never comes up again. She was supposed to be featured in The Way to Eden, the Space Hippie episode.
Yeah, I remember.
Which was originally titled Joanna, but this idea was dropped. So, big earth-shattering news, Dr. McCoy has a daughter.
I was hoping that they would continue this whole he had a daughter situation into the movies, but they never do. Because it would really help. I mean, even in the JJ verse, we get a little explanation about Bones. And that is, the wife took everything in the divorce. All I have is my bones, At least we knew that about it. I mean, we knew nothing about McCoy in the entire original series or the movies necessarily until Star Trek V.
It's such a good, would have been such a good bit of character development too, introduce and maybe have interactions with his daughter, because in every interaction that we really see McCoy, he's this crotchety old man, right? Mm-hmm. But bring in his daughter, who he probably loves and adores, right? And shows us an entirely different side of McCoy. That would be so fascinating. But Oh, well.
Yeah, we don't get any McCoy backstory really until Star Trek V, and Star Trek V is such a divisive movie topic.
I have to wait all the way until Star Trek V to learn more about Dr. McCoy.
Oh, and it's so touching. Everybody dismisses Star Trek V as being the worst, and I'm like, no. There's a couple of those Next Generation movies that are worse.
Number 5, that's the one that Shatner directed, right?
Yeah, it contains my favorite line in all of Star Trek, and that is, "What does God need with a starship?" And I use that so often. You'll see. It's in the coming months or so. You'll see.
All right. I mean, overall, this was kind of boring. The line or the show does kind of end with one of my favorite Spock digs at McCoy, because McCoy says something about 2 Spocks and we don't need 2 Spocks, but Spock says 2 Dr. McCoys might just bring the level of medical efficiency on the ship up to acceptable levels.
You've been Spocked.
Just, such a brutal burn. I absolutely loved it.
And our final Ted night.
We're waiting.
Oh. Moving on to even more Spock, the Infinite Vulcan. While visiting newly discovered planet Phylos, Lieutenant Sulu picks up a walking plant called a retlaw and is poisoned. The alien species that inhabit the planet, who are plant-like beings, approach and save Sulu's life, but kidnap Spock.
I was scratching my head this entire episode.
I had to read the synopsis for this episode as I was watching it, because why? None of it made sense. Before we do even talk about it, the backstory behind this episode really gives some insight into just how messy the script, like writing these episodes, is.
The backstory of this episode is more interesting than the episode.
It's so interesting because this episode is written by our friend Walter Koenig, Chekhov. And so the idea of Phylosians was forced upon Walter Koenig by Gene Roddenberry, who wanted a race of talking plants because it was not possible to do it on the original Star Trek. Koenig had to write 10 to 12 drafts of the script before it was accepted by Gene Roddenberry. And according to Koenig, he was offered the chance to write additional scripts for Roddenberry. However, he turned it down because of Roddenberry's excessive and controlling demands for rewrites. Mm-hmm. And also,
that's just, you should have known that going in there, Pavel. Yeah.
Right, where have you been? Where have you been? But also, the Retlaw plant is named after Walter Koenig. It's just his first name spelled backwards. He also auditioned to lend his voice to the role of Caniculus, but was turned down. Koenig openly regrets that Filmation couldn't, or, according to him, wouldn't, hire him alongside his fellow veteran Star Trek actors due to budgetary concerns. To this day, he bluntly charges the studio heads with sacrificing too much artistic talent in the name of reduced costs. It's hard to believe what a bunch of tightwads were, Lou Scheimer and Norm Prescott were, if you've never worked with them. And even harder to describe after you have. Ooh, some bad blood.
Koenig is such an interesting creature. He goes on and writes more scripts and sci-fi and stuff like that. He had a whole series that he created and a whole comic book series that he created.
Oh, crazy.
So he goes on and continues to do writing. But out of all the Star Trek cast, he seems to me to be the most angry.
Yeah, he seems to have had the worst time of the bunch.
Yeah, he felt like he was entitled to more, but he wasn't willing to do the work to get more, where Nimoy did. Nimoy kept in and kept up the work and kept trying and got more. He never, I think he expected everything to be handed to him, and it wasn't. I get that feeling anyway.
Interesting. Yeah, but you're right. He definitely seems, of everybody, the angriest of the bunch. Yes. Which is so crazy. But like I said, I had to follow along with the synopsis as I was watching this episode because why? So it turns out this main bad guy was a human giant from the eugenics wars. And he's trying to create the perfect specimen, and therefore he keeps cloning himself until he finds the perfect specimen, which he determines is Spock.
And see, I got the feeling that he became a giant when he got there, that was part of the process, that he got there as a guy from the eugenic wars, but was just regular size. See, again, this episode is just so confusing. I thought it was cool that they even mentioned the eugenics wars, but then
Totally.
but that was it. Not enough. Here's the deal. And this guy Caniculus is supposed to be a known figure. And this clone is Caniculus 5 or something like that.
He's Stavos Caniculus 5 because he's been cloning himself for the last 250 years, which is why he called himself number 5, because he must be the 5th iteration of this. And their solution, sometimes the team makes some bad decisions in regards to leaders from the eugenics wars, because they decide to leave the cloned giant Spock with him on this planet so he can continue to try to do whatever it is he's doing.
And I was never really clear as to why he wanted Spock's clone anyway.
Because he's perfect? I don't...
the whole episode baffled me, but I was just happy that you saw this episode, because now I want you to go back into Lower Decks and look for the giant Spock skeleton.
Where? Because
It's in Lower Decks.
I've been rewatching. You know how often I watch American Dad? I've tried to start replacing that with Lower Decks so that I spend more time watching Lower Decks than I do American Dad. But oh my God, okay, I will go back and look for the giant Spock skeleton, because that's crazy.
It's in Lower Decks. Go take a look. It's hilarious.
I tell you,
I know that reference.
the more I watch regular Star Trek and the more I watch Lower Decks, it's something new every time, because Lower Decks is so jam-packed with references.
There are so many little
It's insane.
everywhere. Either out and out jokes just for us, or just little props, lamps, things like that.
There was one that I caught last week where they're talking about the Mugato, and Boimler's like, did you know there's different pronunciations for the Mugato? Because you know how it's originally credited in the show as Gumat. It should be Gumato. Oh my God, it was some of the funniest things I have ever seen.
So you could tell the writers of Lower Decks are fans, like heavy duty.
like a little bit too much. Like, oh, that's all. We're doing a lot, you guys. But I like it for me, because as I continue to watch, I'm gonna keep catching stuff. But moving on from that kind of terrible episode, I love this next episode. The Magicks of Megas-tu. While exploring the near center of the galaxy, the USS Enterprise is caught inside an energy matter vortex and all her computer systems fail. A being named Lucian appears on the bridge, repairs the ship's system, and takes the crew to explore his planet Megas-tu. Very supernatural. The Winchester brothers are meeting the devil, baby.
Yes.
And this is another episode too. We're learning about the behind the scenes. So much of the behind the scenes of this show is messy, but we'll talk about it. So the gang is searching for essentially the source of the Big Bang, which I think is wild to only spend one episode doing.
That seems like a whole season of a series, doesn't it?
Right, like that is a whole season of Supernatural, and they cover it in Star Trek the Animated Series for 24 minutes. But so Larry Brody, one of the writers of this episode, had originally sent this script for the third season. He had originally sent this script for the third season of the original series, but producer Fred Freiberger rejected it. 3 years later, he pitched the same idea to Gene Roddenberry for the animated series. Roddenberry loved the idea and the script, but according to Brody, Roddenberry rewrote the entire script, and Brody did not realize this until the episode aired.
Yep. Yeah, you never leave anything alone with Gene. That's just all.
No,
including your women.
I was just about to say, not your women, not your scripts. But in the original script, the crew met God. The studio objected to any reference of God. The producers changed God to the devil, and the studio accepted it. In Star Trek V, Star Trek was able to finally make a Captain Kirk meets God story, which now I'm even more interested in watching Star Trek V, because what is happening?
And Gene's original pitch for Star Trek the Motion Picture was he talked about having Jesus on the bridge and it eventually becoming Kirk fighting Jesus.
Please.
I know. I want that so
Lord, I
badly.
have seen what you have done for others. Please, please give me this. This is insane. So, so they
Anyway.
meet a satyr named Lucian, who he's just having a wild romping of a time.
He's the devil. He's got horns. He's got the goatee. He's got the goat legs. He's the devil. He's the devil from every Tenacious D music video.
Yes. And he's giving them a tour around Megas, which is Eden, which was the allegory I picked up.
And Animated Satan has one move, and it's this. That's what he does. That's he stretches his arms out. That's what.
Listen, we cannot spend more than $5 on animating Satan. Okay.
But he's so cut. Did you see how cut he was?
Yeah, and then using this whole place is all about magic, and so
magic with a K.
Magic with a K. That's how you know it's evil.
Evil magic. Yeah.
And the crew of the Enterprise is to stand trial for their crimes because it turns out the people of Megas traveled to Earth in the 1600s and tried to integrate, but humans found them to be witches and burned them at the stake.
Their mistake was landing in Salem, Massachusetts at the wrong time. That was their mistake.
Yeah, this is a good Halloween episode. I was watching it and I'm like, you know what? Add this to your rotation of stuff to watch in October because this is a good Halloween episode. And the way that they win is real Tinkerbell shit. Kirk has to fight because he had the magic within him all along and he just had to believe.
Well, that's what was wild to me in this episode is that if you stayed on this planet long enough, you might be able to learn how to do magic with a K.
Sign me up.
And so Spock's the first, and he makes his chess pieces move, on his own. But then when it comes to a Kirk fight, of course, Kirk's never wielded magic before, but is an expert at it.
Such a Mary Sue, honestly. The other thing about this episode, this was originally broadcast on Saturday, October 27th, 1973. Again, great Halloween episode. When it re-aired the following spring, all references to Lucian actually being Lucifer had been edited out. Whether this was at the insistence of the network, sponsors, or others is not known, but the removal of this critical plot point detracted much from the rebroadcast. And I believe it because when he does reveal himself to be Lucifer, it is like big effing deal.
Yeah, I mean it kind of steals an idea from a previous live action Trek episode in that the Greek gods were aliens, and this is a similar situation just with the
Earth
pilgrims.
can't have anything nice, can it? Earth can't have anything original.
No, we don't deserve it, and you know that.
Why people want to be human?
That's the theme. That's the running theme. But as far as having, I wanted my Lucifer action figure. I didn't get it.
Ah, dang.
We never got one. But if anybody looked like Satan, it's Spock. I'm just kidding.
Listen, they already did that.
They already did that, Joe.
Are you casting me in the role of Satan?
There you go.
Well, moving on.
This was one of those. It was just it was a typical Trek episode.
I honestly am now getting more and more excited for Star Trek V because bring in those Winchester brothers and let's fight God and have a roadside beer afterwards. Like,
there's a fight with God. There, Kirk.
Yes.
Kirk pisses him off.
Oh, Kirk.
Oh, he does it. He does it. I can't wait.
I love this
great.
for him. My God. What other captain has the hubris?
Well, I mean, you could say, again, this is Trek you have not seen. Sisko doesn't want to be, but is a god. Okay. That's coming.
The more I hear about DS9, I
can't wait.
Anyway, moving on to another
right.
planet. Once upon a planet, the Enterprise crew revisits the amusement park planet first seen in the classic Trek episode Shore Leave, hoping for some rest and relaxation. Waste of an episode.
Didn't care.
What are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that this thing did was it took us underneath the planet where we didn't go before.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of explained how it might happen or work. And I was okay with Bones' description when he came up with those two hot chicks in the live action episode. He came up there with those two bunnies, and he's like, they've got an amazing facility down there, Jim. They can do anything. That's all I need. That's all I needed. I didn't need any more.
I do love seeing this planet because it's mostly, if you think about it, from McCoy's perspective. Because he initially described it in that first live action episode like Alice in Wonderland, and we get Alice in Wonderland references. And once again, that white rabbit comes hopping by, and Alice herself is there, and I'm like, oh great, these guys again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it turns out that there is a machine that runs this planet. This planet as a whole. One, does it even have a name?
It does, but I can't remember. I can't remember the name of it. Sherman's Planet. I don't know. No, it does have a name. It does have a name.
Yeah, but so it's run by one computer, and who manages the computer? A guy. One singular guy. And because this planet is designed to, like, if somebody gets injured, this planet helps to repair you. But what happens if you die? Who knows? Because nobody has died on this planet before except the guy.
Except McCoy. McCoy died in the live action episode. He had critical injuries, and then his body disappeared, and then he came back alive and fine.
But the guy who's been running the computer died. And so this computer has been just running the planet.
Mm-hmm. But
and I feel like if you're using this planet for shore leave, there should be more protocols in place than just a guy.
Yes, a few more safety protocols rather than, well, what if Ted leaves? His job is giving you a sick
day.
Well, his job is giving you a vacation. What if he wants a vacation? Do you think he's going to stay at home and work? No, he's going to want to go somewhere. But so the computer that runs the planet, that Ted ran, that runs the planet, or whoever the guy's name. I'm calling him Ted. All right, I know his name is not Ted, folks.
Who even cares at this
but
point?
The computer becomes sentient and decides it doesn't want to be, for lack of a better term, a slave working for these creatures that come to visit, because that's essentially what he's doing. He's thinking maybe there's more. So there was that.
Yeah, I love it when computers determine that people are bad. And Kirk has to come in and be like, oh, no. We work together. Do you see?
With machines, you see.
Together with machine, not oppose machine.
No, I mean, we could unplug you, but we won't, I promise. And forget I even mentioned that. Forget I even said unplug.
If you've seen The Creator 2023, not dead, turn off, standby.
Yes.
But I like that the machine refers to the Enterprise as the Sky Machine, and that's how I'm going to start referring to God from now on, as the Sky Machine.
I love that idea. The Sky Machine. You serve the Sky Machine.
And for whatever reason, it kidnaps Uhura.
Yeah, again, this episode... There were things happening that I'm just like, I don't know anymore. I really don't. Okay, she's been kidnapped. All right.
Truly, the only piece of trivia I have is one of the few times that a Federation starship is shown to be equipped with seatbelts.
That's right. They got seatbelts in this episode. That's the first time.
A common sense precaution whose absence has long puzzled fans. Perhaps the only other time is in a deleted scene in Star Trek Nemesis, made nearly 30 years later.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
whatever.
And JJ incorporated the seatbelts into his whole thing.
Yeah, great. Right. Super.
Sorry.
Buses to this day still don't.
School buses.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was one of those episodes you're like, okay, put in the very least effort you can, I suppose, and throw it at us.
The backgrounds on this definitely looked reused from other Filmnation shows. Like, this was definitely a Lassie background. I can guarantee it.
There was a combination Lassie and some kind of other. I'm sure they were producing a lot of space shows at the time, fantasy shows, because the computer and it was all a lot of reused backgrounds and stuff. But it's just an episode we didn't need, really.
Yeah, just get rid of it. But an episode featuring my favorite arch nemesis of all time, Mudd's Passion. The USS Enterprise receives orders to arrest Federation outlaw Harry Mudd, who is accused of selling fake love crystals. Intercepting Harry on the mining colony of Motherlode, they bring him aboard the Enterprise. Of course, Harry Mudd is on a planet called Motherlode. Where else would he be?
And he's down there selling. I'm looking at the thing. He's selling love potion to minors, not underage people. But
I was like,
people
MINERS.
And I'm looking at the crowd of minors, and it's a bunch of rough-looking guys and creature guys. I didn't see any female representation there.
Yeah, I mean, Harry brought a lady with him to demonstrate. It would just, God, what a pervert. This man is such a pervert. Just insane. But I love the moment where, Kirk and Spock, again, Kirk asks, hey, what's the likelihood that Harry is down there? And Spock says some percentage decimal point. And McCoy's like, couldn't you just say it's likely Harry's down there? And Spock's like, I did.
With numbers. So
my two dads. Oh, my two dads.
So they get Harry. They take him onto the ship. Now, remember.
Which, by the way, Harry Mudd says, I may just sue you, and Kirk says, I'll see you in court. Is this still a thing we do in a post-scarcity society?
Well, I mean, we've had several trial episodes of Star Trek.
Yeah, but those are in regards to, like, the law, not necessarily like Judge Judy financial disputes, so it seems.
See, Lee would explain this better than I can. But so if you're a member of the Federation, if your planet is a member of the Federation, you don't need money because everything is taken care of. It's all about the transporters and the synthesizers and things like that. They'll make whatever you need. So you want for nothing, and you're okay. We don't go crazy with it. We don't make palaces, but where outside the Federation, they still use money. So, like, this is where the Ferengi would come in with their money, and
Gotcha.
the Cardassians, of course, and the Klingons still use money, and so all the other civilizations outside of the Federation use money. Where we're completely socialist, so I'm not explaining that. I'm not explaining that properly, and Lee would do a better job. But there you go.
But so Harry Mudd has these fun crystals that will make anybody fall in love with you. And who falls victim to this man but dear Nurse Chapel? And the implications of this, insane, because she chooses to use these crystals on our dear friend Spock. And at this point in the timeline, they've already had a relationship and they have ended their relationship.
If Strange New Worlds is canon here, yes.
The implications of this, Chapel. I don't think Chapel's ever gotten over him, because there's also a moment in the original series where Chapel is like, oh my God, Spock, like, tries to tend to him. And he's like, whatever. But the fact that she tries to use these crystals on Spock, my heart aches for her, knowing everything that has happened already.
Well, yeah, but Christine and Spock's relationship is weird because, I mean, we remember also in the original series that she was engaged to Corby, Roger Corby?
Yes.
The android guy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, which I can only assume we will get more into in season 3 because she's been accepted into his fellowship.
The Corby Fellowship, yes. Interesting.
This is my jam. Ooh, I love this stuff.
But you could tell this is written in the 70s because it was written now. There's no way Christine would do that to Spock. Not without his consent or his knowledge or anything like that. You know that it was written in the 70s when, putting drugs in a girl's drink was just there. It was just a thing,
Just typical Tuesday.
It's Tuesday at the Playboy Mansion. That's what's happening, So yeah,
she thinks it doesn't work, but then it works.
I mean, the writers at the time probably thought they were being progressive because it was a woman doing it this time.
What if a woman roofied a man? Wouldn't that be insane?
They probably thought that's very progressive of us, isn't it?
With this highly illogical thing that could never ever happen. A woman roofing a man. Nonsense. And we all had a good chuckle. But then it turns out that it does work. But not only that, the crystals are somehow, they're ventilating through the whole ship. So they're affecting everybody on the ship. And some of the best, just like there's a moment where they're on the planet because Spock, he goes cuckoo bananas for Christine all of a sudden. He's like, my dear sweet Christine, we have to go rescue her because Harry Mudd has taken her down to this planet. And we have to go rescue her, and he better not harm a hair on her head. And I'm like, Spock, oh my God, calm down. This is insanity. And they get down to the planet, and Kirk and Spock have a cute little tender bro friendship moment.
Well, because as Harry explains, is that, and again, this is a world where gay people don't exist. Harry explains that the love potion will make male-female attraction like crazy strong. Male-to-male attraction, their friendships will grow.
And as you and I both know, these boys love each other.
And
if it wasn't illegal to animate it, they would have kissed. I can guarantee.
Exactly. And being in the 70s and everything. And the funniest part is, I mean, filmation, animation, and drawing is so bad anyway. But it's that meme. You've seen it a million times of Kirk and Spock with their arms around each other. Even that's drawn awkward.
Well, there's an episode earlier too. I think it's the plant planet one, or no, the one with the Infinite Vulcan, where they have the clone of Spock. They have weak Spock, and Kirk. I think it's Kirk is carrying Spock in his arms, and I'm like, give me more of this image, please, because it's just the briefest, just like 1 second, and. Wow. Another thing that just I cannot help but notice every time Kirk covers his mouth when he speaks. I notice it so frequently now. It's insane.
It's your cost saving right there. We can get the episode done quicker if he does this,
That's so funny.
With the arm, when the arm around the around each other part happened, I was alone in the house. The dogs were asleep, and I couldn't help but go, kiss.
No kiss. I wanted it so bad.
They wake up like, what? What are you doing? Why are you yelling at the TV?
God, but then there's also a moment because everybody on the ship is affected. Oh my God. And McCoy has, I would never want to be cornered by Dr. McCoy in a bar because he is the creepiest guy to ever hit on a woman.
Oh,
he talks about, what was he talking about? Like all the hearts he's broken or something like that?
All the people that he'd saved.
All these people that he's saved. And he talks about, now let's talk about your heart. And this brunette woman, 0 lines, can only nod. He
animation. Can't pay a voice actress.
Pick her up. And I'm like, he was so creeped out.
He was awful. He was just like, yeah, I've saved Scotty's life. I've even saved Spock's life. I've saved everybody on this ship's life, as a matter of fact.
Oh, like, now let's talk about yours.
Dude, yeah. Well, and Scotty flirting with them rests.
Well, Scotty, I think Scotty's not opposed to hooking up with anything,
Oh yeah. Hey,
he even mentions after the effects have worn off, he's like, well, I've got the worst hangover and I didn't touch a lick of scotch or something like that.
Well, this is the second episode with MRES. and she's the all-purpose bridge officer, cat lady. And again, this is a reference to Lower Decks. The cat is the doctor on Lower Decks, and this is the same species.
Are they the same species?
Yeah, that's why the cat is in Lower Decks is a doctor in Lower Decks.
Interesting.
But the first time we see Emrys, she's just voiced by Majel Barrett normally. But in this episode, Majel decides that it needs to be more cat-like. So after every...
She leans sexy.
Yeah, after every line, it's... and
I thought it was just because of the love smoke floating around the Enterprise, because I was like, oh, she sounds horny now.
Now, I think what you'll find as we go on, and I could be wrong because I didn't watch the show, I think you'll find that this will now be the thing with Emrys, is that Majel Barrett will every time.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, do it or don't. But, the way you're doing it now is really irritating and noticeable. And
Pick a lane.
Exactly.
and then the moment where the Enterprise, where Kirk is like, okay, can you beam us up, please? And it cuts to the transporter room, and the two people in the transporter room are dancing. That was some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. I want more of this.
And it's like, what kind of music selection was that, first of all? I guess it was the cheap free kind or something.
Yeah.
And secondly, we don't have to animate their legs. We just show them
hide them
table.
behind the console. Yeah.
Hide them behind the table and everything will be fine and they can dance.
Oh, holy Toledo. God. As much as I despise Harry Mudd, I think so far this is my favorite episode just because it's insane for a child's animated TV show.
Well, and I think my favorite part was at the end when Kirk takes the last of the love potion, and there are the two giant rock creatures. They look like, they're like Godzillas or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they're, chasing down the humans on the planet. And Kirk takes the last of the love potion, throws it into the one Godzilla's mouth, and then suddenly that Godzilla likes Kirk. He likes Kirk and decides to protect him.
And tell me the rocks are gay?
I'm like,
the rocks are gay?
Why isn't Kirk taking advantage of this and getting some?
Wow,
he would.
Right? It's so unlike Kirk. If I know Kirk, he's going to try it.
He will try, even with the Rockzilla or whatever it is.
He's trisexual. He'll try anything once.
Exactly.
No real pieces of trivia for this episode, except our friend Roger Carmel reprises his role.
Senior Noggle comes back and does a pretty good job. The thing I notice with a lot of the performances, the voice performances, is that when they were on set, they were able to be big. And for some reason, they didn't carry that into the voice booth.
No, it's very, subdued.
I mean, Senior Noggle does a little bit of it, but not as big as Harry Mudd was in the original series episodes.
I wonder when we see that shift in animation, right? Because, I can't speak to animation as a whole from that era, but are voice actors getting crazy in the booths like they do now?
Oh,
when did that switch happen?
It was during that cheap period that I told you about in Saturday morning cartoons when everything was rushed and just done quickly and cheaply. Because if you go back and take a look at some of Mel Blanc's performances in Looney Tunes, he was all over the place and shaking his cheeks and doing it big and the whole thing. And then that period of the 70s happened where everything was, animation was getting expensive. We got to do it cheaper. We're sending it overseas, and it really constricted, and the voice performances just weren't as big. And then something happened where it was like, well, we can get back to that. Why don't we get some actors, some voice actors in there who aren't afraid to really bring a performance like Mel Blanc did.
Interesting. Yeah, it was all drab until Robin Williams got in there.
He may have had something to do with it. I've been rewatching some of these old Looney Tunes every now and then. They're kind of like a before bed kind of a shot of whiskey or something to help.
A nightcap.
A little
nightcap of Looney Tunes.
A little tequila, something to throw back. So I got on my HBO Max and I just got it so it's in a shuffle kind of a situation. And man, Mel Blanc was just so damn good. I mean, he was all the voices all the time, except for maybe 2 or 3 instances. And he's doing a different take every time and a different intonation. It was just astounding. And huge performances. Huge with Daffy and just amazing. I'm at that point now where Chuck Jones has joined the Looney Tunes. Chuck Jones is a writer and director. He's my favorite. He's just joined, and I saw his first take on Daffy Duck. He's the guy who took Daffy Duck and made him into the manic, angry Daffy Duck that we now know, because he started out as crazy. And Chuck Jones is the guy who made Daffy what he is now. And so I saw his first take on Daffy Duck, and I was like, I see where he's going with this. Nice big performance.
We'll have to do a whole separate animation of the era type deep dive, because that's so fascinating.
I watched them all. That's what I did on Saturday mornings, man. It was a bowl of cereal and flipping back and forth between the 3 channels, checking out everything.
That's so funny. I never watched Saturday morning cartoons. People would talk about Saturday morning cartoons of my generation, and I'm like, I don't.
Well,
I was sleeping, honestly.
But by the time you were of that age, we had Cartoon Network. It was 24/7. It used to be the only time you saw cartoons was Saturday morning, or during the week in the mornings before there were news shows, they would show a Popeye cartoon, things like that.
Yeah,
but anyway.
I'm just spoiled and got cartoons all the time.
Yes, Adult Swim.
Yeah, oof, I miss. Honestly, I wish they would bring back. I think I read a thing that was they're going to bring back some of the weird ones like Cow and Chicken and Johnny Bravo. And
yeah, they're going to bring back a few of those. Yeah.
Ooh, Two Stupid Dogs. Bring back Two Stupid Dogs. Anyway, that's it for this week on the Space Show. Next week, we're going to talk about more animated series. But until then, we're going to go where no man has gone before, but a lot of men have gone before. Thank you so much, everybody.